Hi, everybody. This is Conrad Agramont. Thanks for coming to today's Tech Talk. Today's topic, we're going to talk about DevOps for IT. DevOps is a topic that has been, really talked a lot about in the IT industry. And when we look at it, a lot of times, and I'll go through this a little bit more, it's discussed in the view of really from a developer standpoint. And when we look at that in DevOps, it caters more towards developers building applications, kind of defining a process to automate the infrastructure of building, continuous testing, deployments. It's really great stuff, and it's really something that a lot of engineers should know, because there's a way to still be involved. However, even if you're not a part of a software development team, even if you're not part of the line of business applications, they just still give you deployed MSI, there's still a lot of benefits you can have within your own organization, leveraging a lot of the tools that are both that are either free or extremely affordable. And if you're doing a lot of things within within Azure, even better. There's a lot of cool tools that you can use. The problem that I found in the past was, how do you pull it all together? One, it was a combination of lots of different tools to kind of figure out and learn. We kind of made it hard. None of the tools kind of work together in a way that you found very interesting. So hopefully by the end of today's discussion, you'll know some of the kind of high level pieces and something that you can get started on today. And I bet there's something that you've seen all the time and thought, I have no idea how to work with this. So hopefully and I'm going to demo this as well. So I'm going to go through a few slides just because I think it gives a good visual. Then I'm going to go right in the demo. We're going to actually see some of this stuff pulled together. So it should be pretty cool. All right. So the first thing is, when you look at an IT organization, here are these kind of 4 buckets, and they're not exclusive. It doesn't mean that you only do it in one way or you only do it in another way. A lot of times it's in this combination. But when you break it down in terms of how do you actually do things, right? Hey, when I build a box, do I just go into the Azure portal and click on a few things and then create the VM and follow the panels, or have I automated it? If you've automated it, sometimes it's because you found some interesting PowerShell script code online. You've done some searches. I'll show maybe a little bit of that. Then you get the script, and then you make some modifications and you test it out, and it's working and not working. And then you build out a box and it works. Great, I built a box out and automated it. I need a second box, but it's a little bit different. So now I update the script again, and now my script is different from when I built box 1 and box 2. So if I had to rebuild box 1, I really kind of can't. Or if I did, I have now multiple copies of this. So it gets kind of messy with these one-off scripts. You can use management tools, but some of them provide the same benefits and problems as the other ones, which is you go in the management tool and you do things by hand. They automate some things for you, but not everything. Or I use management tool to push out the scripts that I created one-off. The last part really is trying to pull all this together. Now, DevOps by itself doesn't just fix my problems for me. I still have to define things. I still have to script things. So I still have to do things that I did before. However, it gives me better tooling, better processes, better tracking, so that the future me benefits from the work that I've done previously, versus right now the future me is always kind of recreating these things that's going on. So I try to kind of build a view in terms of, well, what's the real benefits to this? And this is something we'll probably post on the blog to talk more about each one of these areas, and there's definitely more to go through. When you go to DevOps, there is a huge benefit, and there's also kind of a bit of a shift in how you work and how you build things. You have to get good in the mindset of knowing that 2 hours of working on a script to get it right, even though it only takes me a minute, 5 or 10 minutes to do something, has benefits, because that 5 to 10 minutes really is about a half hour, and I multiply that for every time I have to go do them. At some point, the script saves me a tons of amount of time, and because it's tracked and stored and properly managed, it's much more repeatable and reusable than anything else. One-off scripts, aren't really reusable as much, because like I said, you change them, you don't keep track of the versions, you don't know what version of that script, if you will, created what particular VM. There's a real disconnect between all those things. So the more you can get better at using these kind of DevOps tools or processes, the more your life will be much better down the road, even more so. So when you look at DevOps, this is kind of taking that traditional view of from the perspective of an application builder, developer. Like, I build code, I test code, I deploy code. I then need to operate whatever that code is, right? My line of business application, and monitoring all these sorts of things. Then I need to keep track of what changes. I need to have this kind of this cycle of, I don't just ship code one time. I'm constantly shipping, right? I'm constantly building. Now, again, in the form of an application, that seems very, very true. It's kind of your life. In terms of an IT organization, I may not be continuously building things, but normally my business is continuously changing. People are going in and out of departments, making changes. It's easy to lose track of not just what you've done, but how you've done it. And we've been brought in, Agile IT's been brought into organizations to help unwind and figure out what all that is. And so we normally have this one person, fantastic at doing all our IT stuff, been here for years. They'll leave us now. We have no idea how things were built. We have no idea where things are. We have no idea what things. So you spend a lot of money just trying to retrace that. You spend way more money trying to figure it out than if you just did it from the beginning. Not to say that, hey, if you got a bunch of stuff now, you can't improve on it, but why not start today? So when you look at DevOps, right, it's really the merging of developers and operations. And really the goal was, hey, in the past, people in the business. So if you think of developers as just people in the business that have needs. Hey, we need a server. Hey, we need infrastructure. We have these things and you would always have to go to the operator to say, hey, IT department, we need these things. And then they would go build it, right? But every time you needed a change or an update, you'd always have to go through that process again. So DevOps is really about, hey, why should we always have to go to this engineer to go build something out, right? Well, sometimes you had to go do that because we didn't even know if you had enough infrastructure. So I got to tell you where things are. Well, when you move to a kind of more virtualized, and especially in a public cloud space, the promise is all those resources are there for you. Obviously, there's a charge, but I get value out of it. So I don't really need to ask those questions anymore. What I really want to do is define what I want to go do, and then go push it out. How does this relate to a regular IT organization that isn't doing the kind of line of business application or software as a service kind of deployment? Although I bet you have some of that in your environment one way or another. But it's important to you because you still build out boxes. You still add additional distant resources. You add new people into organizations. You still do all of these things. If it's not building infrastructure, it's enabling settings. And sometimes you need to enable that capability through a script to multiple people in multiple geographies with different types of skill sets. And what you'll find today is that people either send around snippets of code, they send in the link to a Google article, or they do a search in Google to find a link and they send it off. It's very kind of disconnected. So you're not really working together. Those that are kind of moving towards it either stick it all in OneNote or OneDrive, they put it in OneNote, they have a file folder, they put it in Dropbox, but it's kind of traditional file management, which doesn't give you the real ability to work with one another. The other thing that I find really nice around building out scripts is sometimes engineers aren't so good at writing down the definition of what they're going to do to perform a function, right? Like it's sometimes challenging to say, well, I need to build a box, but I got to figure things out. So you put down 20 or 30 settings, you kind of get it to work. And if they were good, they were keeping notes along the way. They're not so good, they maybe took some screenshots afterwards. If there were a lot of people in places where there's just too much to do, they didn't document or figure anything out. So you have no idea what's out there. Building it through scripts gives you at least some view of what the function is and some level of documentation. You want to keep both the script that did it and the initiator, the thing that has the variables, what server name and those sorts of things. So you can always recreate it or always know what it did, and then you could maybe document it afterwards or whatnot. But scripts need good documentation too. Okay, so that's enough of that. So the main thing is knowing that we can do this. There's real benefits to doing it. So Conrad, what is it? All right, so let's get into the fun stuff. So actually, I forgot I didn't even talk about a couple of pieces before I go on. So the first thing is that there's something called Azure DevOps. Now, this used to be called Team Foundation Services and very developer focused, and had its own kind of life and so on. But now it's rebranded Azure DevOps. This is much akin to what you can find with GitHub and lots of other tools. The nice thing is that it's built in. I'll tell you about the price stuff because it's really cool. The things that I'm going to show you today is really just the Azure repo, basically the repository that you can use for your PowerShell scripts. So that's what I'm going to show here in about 2 minutes. But the other areas like Azure boards, you can use basically so you can do like Agile or Scrum-based type development. It's good if you do scripts. If you're doing kind of real good software development processes, this is great because you can link any issues or bugs and updates that kind of connect to all this. If you're not that mature yet, if it's you, maybe 3 or 4 engineers, I would say turn it off. You can turn it off and not use it. Use something like Planner, which is much easier and lightweight to do what you want. I'm not saying don't do it, but sometimes it's a lot to digest in the beginning. Pipeline is all about continuously building whatever you create. Probably a topic we'll take on at a different time. Azure test plan, so that every time you do a check-in, every time you update your code, that there's a series of tests to say, hey, do all those things still work? Because sometimes you make a change within code and something's not working anymore. Then your artifacts, the things that you build, your package, you can now push out to like NPM, Maven. These are other kind of package deployments. Again, another topic. For now, if nothing else, you walked away from today, knew what Azure Repo was, connected into Azure Repo, uploaded your first PowerShell script, checked it in and out, even get something from something else to put into it, you are way down the road of doing it, and it's pretty simple. And we'll go through this whole thing here in a little bit. So again, the repo is really the place where we want to do it. Git is the main client. What I'm going to show you is Visual Studio Code, which is a free developer type environment, if you will. Some people do it, Notepad++, but it's not integrated. Some do the PowerShell, the IDE that's available, but really doesn't provide a lot of the other tooling that you're going to want. And it's really modular. It has all these community components that makes colorization, checking in and out, built-in templates. It's really great stuff. And did I mention it was free? So, and it works built, with this. So if you know Git, it's great. Azure DevOps with the repo is fantastic. If you don't know Git, you kind of don't really need to as much. You do need to learn certain topics. I'll go through it here. If your managed customers call us, we'll help walk you through a few other things. But it's a great place to at least get your code, and I'll show where this thing is really, really awesome when you work in a team. And then the pipelines, again, this is where whenever you make changes to your code. Now this could be, right now we're talking about PowerShell, but if you have some of your anybody in your organization who's building, like, let's say .NET application, or maybe they're building an application in Linux and they're doing PHP and they have a MySQL database, all of that is supported in here. So for all your continuous development, so if you hear people talk about things like Jenkins or anything like that for continuous testing, this thing does it built in. So it's really nice. We're doing some work here, which we'll talk about some other day that you might be interested in. Okay, so setting this whole thing up to do this is pretty straightforward. There's, whenever you do a build and a pipeline, essentially you're getting your code that you built on your desktop, and it's like, oh, it really works here, but then you put it someplace and it doesn't work. Like, oh, well, it works on mine. When you do it a pipeline, it basically checks out that same code you put in your repo, they dynamically spin up a VM. There's some default ones that they have there, or you can upload your own, and then it re-goes through that code in that little sandbox. It gets rebuilt every time to validate that things are working properly, which is a great way to kind of go at it. All right. Lastly, before I go into this now, when you look at the pricing for this thing, there's a free versions. There's other pieces. So I would encourage you to actually go to the website or just search for Azure DevOps Services, and then you'll find all this information. So you can kind of really get started. When you do the free version, it's for public repositories. You have to do the pay one to do private repositories, or I think maybe there's an add-on. If you don't want to do Azure DevOps, no worries. I would still encourage you to do Git. You can actually get, it's an open source thing. You can get Git server, run it on your own box, run it in Azure, run it on-prem, whatever you want. At the very least, just get there one way or another. All right, so let's go into the fun stuff. Not say this isn't the funnest topic. All right, so the first thing is this, which is Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code is like I said, it's a free utility. It's available, so let's just do a quick search. Visual Studio Code. There it is. You can download, get the latest stable build, which I would recommend. Oh, you like to do stuff on Linux? It works there too. So you need to go download that. Once you download it and run it and install it, it's pretty lightweight. Again, it's free. If you want to do all the things I'm talking about, if you already have Visual Studio Pro or Enterprise, you can do that, which provides a ton of great tooling. However, the nice thing about using this to manage at least your PowerShell script code is you can do it everywhere. Right? I can get the same IDE, I can go everywhere. Now that my repo is available publicly, but I can make it private. I'll show you where the demo one that I'm going to show you in a bit is ours, and it's connected to our single sign-on with Azure Active Directory, so it's secured that way and managed that way. For me, when we're doing PowerShell scripting code, before the end of the day, when I leave, I check in the code, it goes up, and then when I go home, if I want to work on it some more, I basically do a sync and I can keep working on the code from wherever I am. So it makes it really nice to have easy access to everywhere and kind of have the same structure that I want. The other thing that I would say when you do download this, one of the nice things that they have are these extensions. I'll go through this real quick. So the one extension you're really going to need, because once you install it, it's still kind of plain Jane. It doesn't understand what you're really trying to do with it. So here I'm going to type in PowerShell, and there's a PowerShell module right here. So when you click on it from the website, you can just click install and it'll install here. The other way is when you're in here, you'll see extensions. It'll say marketplace. You'll see that there's one here because it has a gear, means it's already installed. But if you were searching for it, you do PowerShell. And you can see that not only is this one installed, like I already clicked on it, I can actually uninstall it as well. But there's a lot of other tools in here that I may want to go use, to do lots of other interesting things. So I need like a JSON viewer. I could view like JSON viewers, and I click on install, and it would just install it. Some of these are third-party ones. Some of these are directly by Microsoft, so you can tell by the publisher, whose name would be here. Eric Lind is the one that did this one. Not that I know him, just that's the one I pulled up. All right. So first off, when you first come into Visual Studio, there'll be nothing here. I already have something wired up, but we'll change that here in a second. So first thing, install that. The next is, once you do get into DevOps, we have some, there's an organization. So here I have one called Agile IT Dev. So this has a couple ones that we've been working on, some PowerShell library stuff, some bot stuff we've been working on. But I created this other one called DevOps Demo. Now the whole point of this was you go into it. Once you click in, you'll see all the things that are available. So boards, repos, pipeline, test plans, artifacts. You'll have access to what you need to. It's got little dashboards, which is great. But let's get into the repository. So when we first get into the repository, here you'll see the default one is called master. There's a way to do branching. That's fun for another topic, but we'll just start there. So there's already DevOps demo. Actually, let's be a little more interesting than this today. Let's create a project from the beginning. DevOps Tech Talk. It'll be a private one. We'll go ahead and you can say what version control you want to use. We're just going to go what's in there already. We'll go ahead and create it. So now when it's creating a separate space. I can invite people to it. So if I wire this up with Azure Active Directory, I can invite those people into this particular one. So here I can click on invite, and then I can say, hey, I want to include Sean Spicer. He's not really a developer, but I can do that. So once I click on him and click add, you'll get a notification, and now he has access to this brand new area that we can work on together and start coding together, if that's what we want to do. It's good to break this up by kind of projects that you'll work and things you work on. You don't want to get it too bloated. Okay, so I created this brand new one. Let me go into the area here. The first thing is there's nothing in here. It needs to be added in. What you'll find is over here it says clone in VS Code. There's other utilities that it'll give me access to. So if I'm doing it to Visual Studio, it'll give me that. But let's go ahead and clone into Visual Studio Code. When I get this, first thing, should I allow this to open this URL? This is actually a message that's coming from Visual Studio Code, if you see here. The first time you do it, you're probably going to get a command that says, hey, this thing wants to run something different. It's from your browser. Just say yes, accept it. Then you'll get this one, click open. What's happening now is Visual Studio Code, remember that came up like, hey, do I want to do this, is asking me to, where do I want to put the local copy of the code that I'm going to use here. So let's do this. We're going to go to my E drive here. There we go. I'm going to create one here I'm going to create a new folder called Dev Demo 2. And I'm going to say, yep, this is where I want to put. This is where I want to put this particular repository. So I'll select the repository location. So once that happens, just give me a second. It's still connected. There we go. So you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner. So I was in a different repository. In the bottom right-hand corner here, it says Open Repository. Easy enough. So I'll click Open Repository, and now I'm in it. But there's nothing here. So let's create something. So first, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it hello world.ps1. I'm sure you have a more interesting script. And here I'm just going to do write host TikTok. I'm going to save it. Now that it's saved, it says, it's been updated or it's been untracked, which means if I go back here to the repository we were just looking at and I do refresh, nothing's there. Oh, goodness, why is that not happening? Well, every time you're making your updates, you're making local edits. So if I'm working on a PowerShell script, I'm developing it, trying to get it to work, and I go, it's not working, but oh, now it's working, and now I want to share it, make it available to everybody. So the next thing I want to go do is go ahead and check it in. So I can go over here. You see this little icon over here basically says there's been one update to the branch. So I need to put a message, first version of my cool script. And there's a lot of other tools online. So I'm not staging. I'm just going to make the changes directly, and then I'm going to say I want to do a sync. Now, when I first do a sync, let's go back here, and I'm trying to go through things that I think most people will go through, and I do a refresh. Nothing happened. Where did it go? Well, when you first do a sync, there's nothing been synced up. There was nothing created. Like the first thing I had to do, we really want to do a push. So we'll do a push. Now do a refresh. There it is. So there's my script. Now, I have the script, and I like that it says Hi Tech Talk. The nice thing that's in here is I can actually edit this directly. I can go Tech Talk. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and commit it. My commitment statement is this. Same thing I put over here, and I go ahead and click commit. Great, now that it's in here. But hey, my local copy over here is different. Now, if I sync it without doing anything else, I'll get this update. So let's go ahead and just do a quick little refresh. Close this out. There it is. All right, let's do it again. Thanks, Conrad. I love the scripting. All right, commit, it's pushed right in there. There's no need to sync because I'm doing it directly into the code. And then here I'm going to go, all right, host, adding in some killer code, for example. I'm just doing some basic stuff, makes it easy to kind of check out. So I've made some changes here, and I want to share it, and I added more stuff. And let me go ahead and commit it locally. So yes, I'm sure this is where I want to go. I'm going to do a sync. And now remember, I added something here. There was something over here, and something is probably going to come back and say that it's not right. It's still going, as you see a little guy here. Oh, something happened. It says, look, there's been some changes. So here was what was there before. Here's some changes. I love the scripting, adding this killer code. You see that it's in both places. Here I get to decide what I want to do. Do I want to accept the current changes? So mine, do I want to stomp over it? Do I want to accept the incoming? Like, oh, that code was better. I want to keep that. Or do I want to do both? Or do I want to compare the changes? If you have a lot of code, that comparing is kind of nice. In this example, which is not one you'd probably do a lot, but for expediency, it's easy. I'll do accept both. So it's all in there, but I probably got a little extra stuff that's in there. So now let me go ahead and delete this. You guys save that, and I'm going to go ahead and commit, fixed the merge problem, or this, I'm basically merging, fix the conflict. Let me go ahead and commit that. Oh yeah, that's right. There's still a problem. I'm just going to push it. I'm going to commit all the changes, and then I'm going to push. Now, these are just the basics, but if you think about this with hold on, let's see, stage all changes, and there we go. What's still happening? What am I forgetting to do? Is remote counterpart updates rejected? Okay, still need to resolve a couple more things. All right, let's see if I can just fix this real quick. Yes, yes. See, here it's telling me the other place where it's having a conflict, but I do want to change it and force the push. I'll handle that later. Anyway, so even though I'm glancing over this, but again, you get the idea. You're able to merge it, make the changes. The other thing that's really nice in here, if I go to the commits, so all those changes I was making, you can see here in the commits. So in here you can see for the changes that I was making here in commits, I can see along the way each commit that was happening, what the comment was from the developer and what actually changed inside of the commit. So I can see what code was happening. So again, the nice thing is, if all of your people are kind of working together, making changes to the script, checking things in and out, you're getting a much more kind of mature process of what's happening, within the system. Also inside of here within your changes, which some people really like, is you can look at the script and you can look at what's called the. So we have the script. And look at the blame. Who do you blame for changes? Who did what? So then you get you can roll back, get a copy, you can merge it back in. Again, when you think about all the scripts that you write, the library that you have right now, I bet most people are putting like, hey, I put on a share, we all sync it, but you miss code, you rewrite over one of them. It's just not a good practice. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what you can do in the tooling to kind of just get started quickly today. At the very least, something that you can actually do is, if you can get everybody connected, and sometimes it takes a little bit of labor of love to just explain it to everybody, create a first repo. The things that I do with most people is I'll say, go in here, create a new folder, call it Scratch, just like the name. It doesn't like empty folders, Git doesn't. Create Scratch, and in here, cancel, sorry, in here, in the folder, just say, hey, everybody dump all your scripts in there. Good, bad, or unorganized, doesn't matter. Put it all in one place and then commit it and save it. Now at least you have one copy, and then you can create another folder where you start to actually put your nice clean code and slowly transition it. It's worth your while. In time, you'll learn to love it. Probably take you maybe a week or two of just kind of using it for people to just get used to how to handle certain issues. If you need more help, just reach out to us. Hopefully this has been informative for you guys. Again, this is something that we're doing at Agile IT, and we have other people that are doing it, not just obviously myself, but if you have questions, let us know. But again, I think the main thing you should really take away from this is that there's free resources. You can use it today and start making that much better. Questions?